I think for this episode, I'm gonna have to change my name from Crypto Lulu to Conspiracy Lulu. I'm formulating this vision in my mind, this structure at the world stage, and I'm trying to navigate my thoughts. There's lots of things happening. I need to dig more into Basel III. Basel III is essentially, I think, running the revaluation of all the precious metals, which could potentially be accumulated to then back this new world reserve currency, which we're hoping or thinking it's going to be XRP. I need to do more diving into that. But this is less about the specifics and more about the macro thing that's going on here. So I think we have to make a couple of assumptions, and we have to agree on these assumptions for this to go any further, okay? Assumption number one is that the world is moving towards a new financial system that is blockchain based. Can we agree on that? If we can agree on that, say, put your hands up in the chat, say, yes, that's me, I agree. What we also need to agree on is that there's big financial problems right now, right? And so if we've got financial problems and we're moving to a new financial system utilizing blockchain technology, I think what we start realizing is that where the power lies is not in these puppets that run countries. Mr. Rishi Sunak, I think he's actually a puppet, I'm not even sure, but in some capacity, all of the leaders of the current system right now seem to be puppets, at least of the most important countries and nations around the world. Puppets for who? Who do I think the marionette is in all of this? Well, I heard a phrase from someone, I'm sure it's been said many, many times. I can't place who actually said it. If you know who actually said it, please let me know. The banks control the money controls the people. And actually, there's probably a few little interlinking things in there as well. And actually, even a layer above that, which is what I'm going to get into in this video. What I'm basically trying to say is, I think those who control the money ultimately control where the world goes, what the people think. And so I don't think we're looking at our politicians anymore, or at least it's going to be moving that way, as the guys who make the decisions. There's literally nothing they can do when the money's doing what it wants to do. As long as the money's doing what it wants to do, the rest of the world will follow. Politicians, everyone. And so we have to start looking at who's above the banks. Now this gets really interesting now, and your blood might start boiling when I start talking about this, in agreement with me. But when we look at the likes of the Bank of International Settlements, the guys who basically decide how money is settled around the world, right? That's really, really important. The World Economic Forum, the WEF, or WEF. Does anyone call it WEF? Anyway. And the World Bank. These are the guys that run the world. They control the money. They have all the power in the world. They control, I mean, even if you go down to the next level down where you've got the European Central Bank, if the European Central Bank want to delay an ISO messaging standard, SWIFT moves for them. It's not the other way around. Don't get it twisted. And so you see these hierarchies coming out in all of these things. If we know that the likes of the World Bank and the WEF and the Bank of International Settlements have more say than even the European Central Bank, this is revealing as to who really is in control, not just of your individual country, but who's in control of the world right now. And so here's my theory. This is Conspiracy Lulu coming out right now. If we're moving into a blockchain environment with a new financial system, and in order to change the old financial system into the new financial system, you need a crashing market, basically like what we're in now, which you agreed earlier, you agree with me on that. And the solution to those issues is one world reserve currency. We cannot underestimate that creating a one world central currency, even if it's XRP, and we love that, we also have to understand that the centralization of money from across the globe also comes in even closer to one single person. And so these single people, so if you're going to have a world currency, you basically need someone to run that world currency. You need someone at the top. It's a weird thing. It's not like you have your currency and you have sovereignty over your currency. You might have your CBDC, but it's all basically run on one world reserve currency. It puts that person who controls that money, that world reserve currency, in charge of the world. And it's not our politician. It's some guy in a private company, right? In a bank, basically above all of the banks. There's so much I want to say here, and I'm not really entirely sure how to structure it all. There's like two parts of this. Maybe I separate it into a second video. Yes, I'll do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to put my second part into a second video. But for this video, I want to talk about the idea of potentially being I don't want to get criticized for this. I want you to understand where I'm coming from, and that's what all that context was for. I'm trying to see the good in those leaders of the WEF, the World Economic Forum. I'm trying to see the good in those people because, and this is a little analogy that I used explaining this to a family member before I came up and recorded this. It's like if you're working at McDonald's, okay, and you're the manager of that McDonald's. Even at that level of manager, in the scheme of the world, which is you're obviously climbing your way up in McDonald's, but you're not a top dog yet, you're just managing a branch, right? You have to make decisions that make people who are not in that position, who are below you, you're gonna have to make decisions that make them mad or angry. You might have to increase hours, you might have to shift people's rotas, you might have to change the timetables that they work on. Some people are gonna get upset, but in general, it's to make the whole system work better. Okay, I think we can all grasp that concept. Now let's make that concept bigger. Let's say you've got a world reserve currency now, and you're in charge of that money, and you've been doing the puppeteering over the last kind of 100 years, and you understand the psychology of 9 billion people whenever you do something at this top level, how it impacts not just the members of staff in your McDonald's, you know how it mentally and psychologically and health-wise, you know how this affects the 9 billion people that are in the world. You actually know how the ripple effects work when you have such a high level view. And so what if this is the same thing? What if this move towards surveillance and CBDCs is the best way to control 9 billion people? When you're at McDonald's and your timetable gets shifted or your rota gets shifted and you're working a day that you weren't supposed to be working, you're very unhappy about that. You think this system is terrible, it's all against me. But the manager is thinking, if I shift you there, then that frees up the time for this guy to come in, and that guy's got to get home to his daughter because he hasn't arranged childcare, and that's why I've actually shifted this thing in the first place, because when I make that shift, the whole system at the branch, at the restaurant, will work better. So the manager's made that decision to make the whole system better, but those who are affected think it's a terrible system out to get them, and that's actually not the case. So when we think about it in the large scale of the World Economic Forum and the decisions that they make with this new world reserve currency and this new system and these new CBDCs, could it be that the surveillance of all of that, the way that it's structured, the fact that it's got a central currency among all of it, and it seems very controlled from the top, and us at the bottom feel like we're going to be surveilled, this is terrible for us, this is not the way that humanity should work. I'm just saying, maybe their decisions are based on 9 billion people, right? And this actually is good for 9 billion people. So I wanted to bring that to everything. This is kind of part one. Part two is kind of different, but will serve as part two to this video. And in that next video, which will come out tomorrow, should we make it come out tomorrow? So make sure you're subscribing. Tomorrow's video, we're going to discuss the reevaluation of all the precious metals, the basket of commodities that go into reevaluating the pegging or the backing to the world reserve currency, and linking that into why I think banks might not necessarily hold that much XRP. There's lots to go into here. This may have been a short one. I can't even tell how long I talked for. I lose myself in these times. If you don't have a cold storage wallet to secure your assets, or at least the keys to your assets, there's the first link in the description. If you want to buy XRP in the first place and you want to be able to buy it all across the world, including the US, try using BitGet. BitGet is linked in the description below. And we're growing at a rate of like 20 to 30 new members on YouTube alone every single day. So join this wave of people coming in. I think the Discord is now actually closed off to the public, so the only way into the Discord is to get a YouTube membership or a Patreon membership. So make sure you join. You basically get early insights into the research that I have before I actually make the video, so it's well worth it. Thank you very, very much for being here and bearing with me with Conspiracy Lulu for today's video. Stay motionless, and I'll see you in the next one.